This. I'm starting recording of this particular session now. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to JetBrain for giving us the license, and thank you for everyone for joining this call. I'm giving you the access now for you to go on with the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. And like you said, it's not good to keep your app settings in a file that somebody else can easily access. But today we'll see ways at which you can achieve that in production environments. Because nowadays everybody's building a scalable system that fortunately for us, we need, oh, sorry, that's a wrong screen. Fortunately for us, we need to be able to put into Uh, sorry, I think I'm on the wrong screen. Okay, apologies. I'm trying to stop my screen from sharing. That went to the wrong place. So this is why sometimes when you're sharing your screen, you need to. I'm sure some people are like, I've experienced that before. I can see everything it's saying. So yeah, this is the right screen. Let's go for it. Sorry for that, everybody. It's technology, it happens sometimes, and it can happen to everybody. So just as he has said, we'll be looking at how you can configure feature flags, manage secrets, most importantly, things you keep in your app settings, how you can manage it properly by not exposing what you're not supposed to expose, how you can control access to those things, and how you can give your application access to those things. Like I said, when you're building a scalable system, something that can go into the cloud, because a scalable system, most of these days, you get to deploy it to the cloud. And in the cloud environment, there are services, there are so many things you can configure that that you could do on regular on-prem environment because these things are not available. But in the cloud environment, you have so many tools available for you just so that you can maintain a security standard for your application. And a little bit of information about me. My name is Timothy Ogwemo. I'm a cloud and DevOps engineer. You might be wondering what's a cloud and DevOps engineer doing in .NET in Nigeria. The purpose of this is to sensitize everybody. I know there are developers on this call, there are solutions architects on this call, and you have been looking for ways to actually do things. The purpose of this session is to sensitize you on how you can do things better, how you can maintain security score of your environment in a much more better way. So I'm a cloud and DevOps engineer. I use most of these tools. I interact with most of these tools because sometimes as a developer, you could be working in an enterprise environment or maybe it's a startup and somebody just tells you develop this without even giving you the resource. You have to figure things out on your own. And most times we developers get to do things the best way we can do it. But for me as a cloud and DevOps engineer, my job is to help you get the right tool to do the right thing while maintaining a security standard. So I'm a cloud and DevOps engineer. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, which is why I'm telling you more about Microsoft services today, which are actually in Azure. So what is the challenge, right? We have applications these days. Like I said, you're developing a scalable application. We have applications these days that you are expected to do redeployments faster. You are expected to maintain a certain security standard, and then you are expected not to keep hard-coded values in your application. I know some of us must have seen online people telling you that if you once you commit your app settings into GitHub, it is there forever. Somebody can go to your commit history and see everything, even if you delete the file today, everything will still be in your commit secret, commit history. So this is us sensitizing developers on how you can avoid those things from the onset. Use the right tools, use the right services, and help you develop a modern application that adapts fast, that is easily scalable. You can do things on the fly without having to restart so many things. So which is why Azure has a service called app configuration. From the name, you would believe it's something that keeps your configuration file for your application. That's why it's named app configuration. So you can save your application configurations in it and you can redeploy faster. So the answer, Azure app configuration, like I said, Azure has two tools. you have the Azure app configuration and the key vault, which is what we'll be dwelling on today, which is the focus of this session. Now, app configuration, like I said, here is a centralized managed service for storing application settings. Now, when it's storing application settings, doesn't mean it's totally encrypting it. It's just a repository for you to keep your application settings outside your application runtime environment. Now, there's another tool called Key Vault. From the name, it's a key vault. And if you understand a vault is something that is locked down. Now, in the application side of things, in the Azure side of things, it is where you can keep your keys that are properly locked down and are not exposed to anybody anyhow. So you have those two tools that you can integrate with your application to make you develop a well-secured application that you can easily maintain your application settings. So today we'll be covering how to use those two tools to handle feature flags, how to use it to handle centralized configuration. You might be wondering, okay, so where do I keep my dev configuration? Where do I keep my staging configuration? Where do I keep my prod configuration? You can centralize everything in app configuration. All you need is one app configuration in your environment, and then you can keep, if you have 20 application, these days everybody's developing microservices. If you have 20 microservices, you can all centralize your configuration in Azure App Configuration, and you use different flags, you use different labels to separate them so that when you're retrieving it, you're retrieving things that are meant for your environment. Also, we'll be talking about accessing secrets with Key Vault and how you can integrate it with your .NET and how we are going to see how dynamic refresh works. Because feature flags is one thing these days that helps you to manage how users interact with your applications. You just have a feature flag. Maybe you're trying to introduce your users to something new, or you're not so sure of how they're going to take it. You can use a feature flag to easily turn it off and on without writing or developing something totally. But in this case, we'll be using app configuration to see how you can turn on the feature flag, and instantly it is going to affect your application without restarting your application, without redeploying. You just turn it on and you turn it off, and you can see the evidence on the application live without any what's it called, restart, which is the dynamic refresh capability of the Azure app configuration. So what are feature flags? Like I said, it helps you to release without fear. You can decouple code deployments. Sometimes maybe probably you are using, let's say for example, PayPal. PayPal has different features based on different region. So those kind of features, you can specify regions, you can see where your user is coming from. Probably you select when your user tries to log in, you see the location there, you know the kind of features you uh, give to that user to interact with. That is how what feature flags do. And in this case, we are going to use it for safe rollouts. We are going to use it for canary releases, and we'll see how you can even use it to how you can use Azure App Configuration to set a feature flag to release a part of your application to some set of users, while some other users are on a different side of your application totally. So we'll do the experimentation part today. So how do you do it in .NET? There's a NuGet package that Microsoft has created, which has this things integrated in it. It's called the Microsoft.Feature Management NuGet package. Once you attach that package to your application, you can access um, the features and the options inside that package itself. So if you want to access this, once you install the feature management package, you can use the iFeature Manager interface to access the options inside, and you can build custom filters. You can use custom filters to select different things from your app configuration, depending on, most times you have different environments. You don't want to select everything. You don't want to select things you don't need. You want to filter the configuration that you need, because you might be wondering, okay, so if I just dump all my configuration there, how do I filter? How do I select? How do I do this? So the feature management package has options that can help you to target those two things. And we get to see the way demo after this session, we get to see how we can set our refresh rate. Because you might be wondering, okay, what if how often or how quick will users get to see this new feature once I set it? there's a setting in the configuration side of your package of your program where you can set the refresh rate. You want to refresh every 5 seconds. It means it's going to go to the app configuration to see the latest value and supply it to your application without restarts, without refresh, which is key, which is the most important feature of the app configuration. So it helps you to, like I said, it helps you to centralize your configuration across environments by using something we call labels. So usually when you're developing your dev environment, you have your app settings.json, then you have your app settings.development.json, then you have your app settings.production.json. These are different files. Those files, you don't want to commit it to your SEM. You don't want to commit it to GitHub. But using labels on the Azure app configuration, you can filter these things. You can, when you're selecting your values, you then know that, okay, I'm selecting values for dev, I'm selecting values for staging, I'm selecting values for prod. That is it for the app configuration. We get to see a demo after all to see how these things integrate together. Now for the key vaults, sometimes you have some secrets, usually tokens that you don't want to expose. Most times even in your app configuration, there are some things that you can still leave in your app configuration, and there are some things that are secret. For example, if you're integrating with, let's say, a financial institution, you're integrating with a fintech, you've been given a key to access the API. That key is a secret. Even though you can keep it to your app configuration, it is a very important secret that you shouldn't expose to anybody anyhow. So those kind of things, you take them into your key vault. So we are going to see how we can retrieve these things and package everything into our application at runtime so that our application can be properly secure. So the app configuration helps you to save your config file. The Azure Key Vault helps you to save important secrets that you don't want to expose to anybody. And we'll see how you can even limit access to these values in the key vault. So you might be wondering, okay, it's in the key vault. If I have access to Azure, I can easily go and see what's there. No, we'll see how we can use role-based access control to control who gets to see the secrets. We can even limit it in such a way that it's only the application that can see the secrets. You as a user, if you log in, you can't see the secrets, even if you have permission. So those are the things that we would show us today, and those are the things that keep your environment secure. If there's a cloud or DevOps engineer on this call, there's something most cloud providers will always send to you, probably at the end of the day, or depending on the frequency you've set it, is called your security score. What they do is they check all your environments, they check things you've set in your environment, and they tell you these things you are exposing it. So because it's a cloud environment, because you have maybe federated identity, you are connecting using a particular username and password, doesn't mean it is very secure, right? Somebody can have access to it. You are not the only person that have access to your cloud environment. Somebody can mess something up and somebody else has access to it. So which is why security standards, when you're developing any application, especially applications that are going into the cloud, Azure in this case, we need to maintain security standards so that our applications can be properly secured. So, manage identities. I said something that you can limit applications that are retrieving these secrets, applications that are retrieving this configuration, you can limit it to just the application itself. Now, that is enabled with the capability of managed identities. There is system identities, there is user identity, and there's managed identity in the Azure environment. So managed identity are more like something you call a service account, right? You must have done something, maybe you're developing locally or you're connecting to something. There's something we call service accounts. In Azure environment, it is called managed identities. It is an identity that is not tied to somebody. It's not tied to application. So there is system identities, which is tied to your application. There's managed identity also, and there's user identity. You configure your applications with managed identity so that they can always go to this applications and services to retrieve whatever it is you want to retrieve. So you say Azure has assigns probably a system managed identity to your app service, which is going to be like the identity of the app service itself. That is what is going to use to connect to your app configuration environment to retrieve the configuration and also to retrieve the secrets. The reason why this is important is because in your application code, when you are trying to retrieve from your app config, you need to use the default Azure credentials. Somebody might be thinking, what if I use client ID and secrets? The goal here is you don't expose your secrets. You don't keep secrets anywhere. So if there's something that can enable you to eliminate secrets and credentials, you use it, which is the default Azure credential. That means when you spin up your application, probably in an app service, a container, or an Azure Kubernetes pod, that service is assigned an identity, which it uses to connect. If I scroll back here, is it this point? Okay, I think it's further down. I'll show you where this managed identity gets used in your code for you to connect. So, okay, yeah, this is it. So when you're wiring it all together, you want to connect to your app config, you want to connect to your Key Vault. This is how you configure it. So once you in your program.cs, when you're before you build your service, before you build your application, and you're trying to connect all the services to it, you link it to your Azure app configuration, and there are options you can use. You need your application configured point. So you might be wondering that, okay, what if my application is running locally and I'm not in Azure? How do I connect to this thing? So the Azure App Configuration Service, it's a global service, meaning you can deploy it somewhere and it has a URL, which is more like a URL that you can use to access it wherever you want to access it from, right? It's something you can just launch in a browser and you see the URL. We'll see that. We get to log into Azure to see these things, and we'll talk more about it. So once you're connected to the app config environment, what are you using? You are using the default Azure credentials, which is your managed identity in this case. And you can select key filters. What do you want to select? As you can see, there's a label filter here. So if I'm retrieving all the, what's it called? All the values from my app configuration, what filter do I want to use? I want to use my environment filter. For example, let's say this is a dev environment and I only want to retrieve dev configuration settings. I can use that label filter to filter it out. And then also part of the app configuration file is the feature flag feature. So I'm also going to use feature flags because I need some keys in my feature flag. And if I want to connect to my key vault, I'm still using the same default credentials. You can see that here I'm not using any username and password to connect to anything. This is the security standpoint of things. So when you're developing any application, when you want to do anything, always have the security mindset. If you've worked in an environment where you've been hacked before and it's not on your own desk, you might be wondering that, oh, what did this person do wrong? If you are not also security conscious, it might happen on your desk. It might happen just right in front of you. So every time you're developing, please be security conscious to do these things. So that is why we are not using any username and password. We are just using the default credentials in here. I will talk about the Sentinel later once you get into the application. The Sentinel is just a flag that you use on your app configuration to tell you that, okay, just check for something, check for something, check for something. The moment the Sentinel key changes, your application is going to retrieve the entire configuration files again. Let's say, for example, you mistakenly deployed, maybe when you were saving your configuration file in app config itself, you mistakenly set the production label on the dev config file. So unfortunately for you, you now retrieved what's it called? The production details into your dev environment. You can use the Sentinel key to quickly refresh it without having to queue your application, without having to do anything, just to quickly refresh it so that it retrieves the new configuration. We'll see how all these things work together once we get into the demo itself. So this is part of the things I've talked about, how you can bind your config, right? How you can bind your config is that I use the options that I showed here at first. I'm sorry. So that is that you bind it this way using the configuration option, or you find it this way using the I options itself. So these are ways you can find your config to your application. I will be sharing links after the demo on Azure where you can read more on these things as a developer to give you ways, to give you different ways you can integrate these tools into your application. So if you're a developer for Azure service, it's going to be really, really suitable for you. If you're a cloud engineer, if you are a DevOps engineer, or you're a solutions architect looking to piece things together so that your applications can work, those are things that you'll be able to read about. So the dynamic configuration, just as I was saying, is a dynamic configuration refresh at runtime. There is a sentinel key, which is used to trigger the refresh, right? So it says this avoids pulling every key constantly. What the sentinel key just does is that it only checks this particular key that has changed and sends that back to you. But if your sentinel key changes, it is going to change everything entirely. And also we see how to set cache expiry. You can set cache on the user side. You can set it on the app config side. And also how changes get detected with the Sentinel key and how you can update snapshots. So also, sometimes you change something in your app config. Probably you forgot, you can't remember. That's why some people just put it in, what's it called? GitHub itself, so that if something changes, you can check the config history and say, oh, this was the old value. App config also gives you that feature, right? Every time you can create a snapshot of your config so that you can compare. Let's say, for example, you created a snapshot of your config 10 weeks ago, and you want to compare it with what you have now. You can retrieve that snapshot and compare your configuration together just to see what has changed. So you define your feature flag, you identify the user, you monitor, you observe. Then this is how you can use feature flag for rolling out features to your user. So at this point, I'll just take you to Azure and the code itself so that we see how these things work. So I'll take you to Azure first, so you see what app configuration looks like. So prior to this time, I have been able to deploy something into my environment so that this is just going to be, we don't get to start configuring things here, right? You might be wondering that, oh, what if, where is, how did you deploy it? So I used IAC. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I have everything in GitHub. So just a minute. So I have this in GitHub. I have the application that I'm going to use as a demo in GitHub, and I'll be exposing it to us after the demo. I'll also be dropping the link. The reason why it's private at the moment is because in my settings, I have my tenants config that I don't want you to see. I don't have secrets. You might be wondering that, oh, you're telling us not to keep secrets. Yeah. Why are you using secrets though? I'm not using, they are not secret valid. They are just my tenant configuration information, which I'm using. I can easily delete this. Once I expose this to you publicly, all these things leave the environment for me. So I'll be showing us this after the call. So back to Azure. Now, if you are familiar with Azure environment or you're not familiar with Azure environment, there's a search bar at the top. You can always, if you know the name of what you're looking for or you know the group name, you can search for it. So you're looking for an app configuration, and it's going to list all the app configuration in your environment for you. So it's taking a while. Yeah. So I have a demo app config in here. This is what an app config looks like. So you can see your configuration explorer, which is where you can see your configuration keys and your configuration value that you set. Right now, I only have just two keys just to show us what this is all about. And my Sentinel key that I explained earlier that tells my application what to refresh and what not to refresh. So you always need a Sentinel key. And it's easy to add anything here. Just want to create, what do you want to create? Is it a key value or a key vault reference? Meaning, is your app config referencing something that it's a secret, right? What we are trying to do here, we want to keep our app config in a central repository, but what if there's a secret in my app config? How do I put that there? So you can just create a key vault reference. This is going to reference that key vault to retrieve the value in it and put it in your app config. You won't see the key itself. It's just only going to be referenced. So at runtime, when your application is running, that's when your application itself can see the key, which is why I said you can develop your application in such a way that secrets and keys are not exposed to anybody except your application. So to create one, it's easy. Probably you just want to create a key value. The name, let's say I have my app, let's call it my app. Now, if you want to create it as, if you want to create it as an hierarchy, use the column, right? So this is my app dot, let's say environment, which is dev, dot, what key am I saving? Maybe I'm saving my API key. And this is just going to be dev API key. So when my application is running, I can just retrieve my app dev API key. I save that. Content type, you can just save it as a text, or you want to save that JSON, whatever it is, you want to save it as XML, text or plain. We can set all those things. So that's how you save that. So that is my dev key. Remember, we said, okay, what if I want to put my prod key here also? I can also create another one, call it my app dot prod, then API key. This is prod API key. So this way, when my application is running and I created a filter in my application, by the time it comes here, let's say the filter is prod, this is the only thing it will retrieve from this configuration. All these other ones to be left there. So you are not retrieving values you don't need, which is where the filter comes in. And also I mentioned a snapshot. You can create a snapshot of your configuration. I just create here, and then I follow the steps. What do I want to call it? Maybe I want to call it today's snapshot of prod. You save it. And also you can create feature flags. You know, your feature flag is different from your configuration value. Your feature flag is just something you toggle on and off, right? Is either it is enabled or it is not enabled. And I'm going to show, so I have an application, that application that I just deployed that I showed you earlier. If I just go, let's do a quick demo, right? So I've deployed the application, and as you can see, this is just a small application. I'm not a developer, disclaimer. So if it's not good to your taste, please take it away. So this is just a dashboard, and as you can see, it's classic. So in my application code, which I'll show us, I've been able to say, okay, if my new dashboard is enabled, show me the new dashboard. If not, set it to classic. Now, this is my feature flag, new dashboard. I think it's just best I show you the code itself so we can properly look at that. So I'm just going to GitHub. And I go into my source, and I go into my API, and it's a very lightweight application. Let's just call it, this is where I configured everything, my program.settings, right? So remember, you can read your application configuration by just providing the endpoints, and then it helps you to retrieve all those values. So this is how you add it to your builder specs. I'm using the default credentials, and as you can see, I have my Sentinel key here, right? So immediately the Sentinel key changes, what do I want it to do? I want it to refresh all my applications. I mean, all my app config. But if the Sentinel key is not changing, just select any of the value that is changing, any of the value that's changing. That Sentinel key was what I showed us here in my configuration explorer. As you can see, it has that hierarchical kind of setting also. I have, this is taking a while to load. I have it here, app configuration Sentinel. So if you can view this, this is just set to, you can use any value to just put it there. So I use initial. You can create any value, right? But what it's going to do is, as long as this key doesn't change from initial, it's only going to be selecting what's it called? Any key that has changed. But if I change this to, let's say, comma, just comma, it's going to select all the keys again. For if I have a filter, it's going to select all the keys with the filter. So that is the importance of your Sentinel. And also, I want to retrieve feature flags. So remember, I said the Sentinel helps you to set how often you want it to refresh. So I set my refresh time here for 30 seconds, right? Set it for 30 seconds. That is how often Sentinel itself is going to refresh to get my app configuration values. Now, for the feature flag, you can set its own refresh rates separately, which is what I've done here. Set it for 5 seconds. So remember, we said we want it in such a way that if a feature flag changes, we want it to reflect on our application as quick as possible. So this depends on your appetite or how you want your application to work, or maybe however the product engineer wants it to work. You can set it here, but I've set this to 5 seconds so that we can quickly see on the demo how things are changing. So I've added all this into my configuration and I've built it, and I'm going to build my app here. Now, I've created a couple of APIs to just retrieve the feature and something to just check for my dashboard mode. I want to see if the new, as you can see here, what I'm going to do is I'm going into the app config itself to check the value of the new dashboard. Is it set? If it is set, give me the new dashboard. If it is not set, give me the classic dashboard, which is what I just configured here. Very, very small application. Please don't worry if it's not looking good, like I said. So what we will now do, as you've seen how to integrate this, let's just test it, right? If I go back to my Azure, this in here is my feature manager, right? I'm going to use in the application code, I'm using my feature manager to retrieve my application feature. So this is the new dashboard. As you can see, it is set to enabled, but why am I seeing the classic dashboard? Now, the interesting thing about feature is it's about Azure Feature Manager is you have different flexibilities to it. I don't want to say, okay, oh, let's assume your product manager wants to test your new dashboard 2 a.m. Do you have to stay awake by 2 a.m. to come and toggle this on? No, I don't want to do that, which is where the flexibility comes in. You can schedule a time that this feature is going to get toggled. You have flexibility on how you want to enable it, rolling it out, like we said. You can use the rollout option, you can use the experiment option, and you can schedule it. So this is scheduled on for a particular time. Now we're going to toggle this configuration so we see how this works. I'm going to edit this. As you can see, my audience, I'm giving it just to 50% of my users. So I'll drop the link in the channel, in the chat. You might be seeing different things from even what I'm seeing. So because I've set the percentage of users to 50%, assuming in my application I have my user base saved in Azure, I can override it by the number of people that I want to see it. Do I have a group of beta users? Do I have a group of beta testers? So I have the same application, but different people are seeing different kind of things. This is how you can configure it without doing those things on the database or putting it in your app config file or doing things like that. So just to edit this, come to conditions. As you can see, I set the condition for it to enable this feature flag between 3:57 West African time to 3:59. But now the time is, I think 6:46 West African time. Let's turn it on. So this is 6:46 West African time, so that we see how it's going to turn off itself. Let's set it to 6:46 to 6:40. Okay, 6:47 now. Let's just put it 6:50, right? So 6:47 to 6:50. Then I'm going to review and update and save. Immediately the feature flags update. If I come to my web page, remember it's 5 seconds filter. It's more than 5 seconds now. It's more than 5 seconds. Yeah, it should be more than 5 seconds. If I refresh this, I should see the new. Okay, still giving me the classic dashboard. Let's give it a while. So, okay, Preston, let me drop the link in the chat in case you're trying to follow us to see how it works. Just a minute. Sometimes this Zoom menu can I'm stressful.
Yes, you're right.
Yep. So just trying to get that in there. Okay, so the charts. Uh, if you can see the link, please let me know. You can just open it on your browser. It's available everywhere, so you can access it. I hope this has not crashed on my browser. So if anybody can open the link and see something else, you can just let us
I
know.
think I can still see the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So the other
So
thing that I want to ask, I hope it's not using maybe BST time, or if it is West African time, or is there a place where you have to configure the time zone for this?
oh no, so my environment itself, my browser itself is set to West African time, which is why this is, as you can see, it's default to West African time. So in case you want to roll it out based on the user set region, whatever the user sets are, you can just configure the time. Let's say you want it to be available to people in Eastern Canada between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., which would be like 7 a.m. to Nigerians or 6 a.m. to people in the UK. You can set it up based on the people you want to expose it to. You can set it to their region in here. So 6 to 7. That is demo for me. Okay, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to turn off this schedule, right? And I'm going to turn it on to make sure it's updated. So right now, my feature flag for the new dashboard is enabled. If I refresh, it might take a while. Just open this has not cached on my browser.
Maybe you should try maybe another browser or incognito. Maybe
I'm
that
just
can work.
the incognito. Because everybody's going to see us. Oh, okay. Interesting. Demo this. That's nice. So let's just do a little bit of troubleshooting. New dashboard. Toggle it on. Toggle it off. Submitted. Yeah. So I'm assuming this is as a result of the last minute deployment I just did. So I'm going to roll it back to the last couple of deployments, which is this. Oh, sorry. That is the wrong one. That is why you don't deploy before demo this. Please have that at the back of your minds.
Yeah.
Uh, if it's working, just leave it. Okay, so I'll copy. Then let it go into this. Let's increase. So yeah. So I did the last minute deployment. Now I'm going to try to roll that back. So this was working properly. So I have my IAC configured, and that is going to really, really help us. So this is why you use IAC. I'm a DevOps engineer, like I said. So this is one of the reasons why we do these things, so it doesn't mess up demo, and you can easily roll back and set up whatever it is you want to set up. So while that is running, I'm just going to keep telling you about the features of the app configuration itself. So this is how you use it to manage feature flags. Hopefully this gets deployed as soon as possible, maximum 5 minutes. Then we'll try the demo again. So these are the feature flags that you can set. New dashboard, which is supposed to show me the new dashboard on my UI. And remember I said you can compare your snapshots. Let's say you had your snapshots um 10 weeks ago and you want to compare your configuration file, probably somebody forgot something or somebody changed something and everybody can remember who changed what and it's causing your application to fail, you can always come here to compare. So I'm comparing what I have now with a snapshot that was created maybe 10 weeks ago, right? I don't have a snapshot at the moment, but if there was a snapshot, it would have shown me the snapshots that I had. Then it's going to allow me to compare those two things. The reason why I didn't do it is, yeah, you have to pay for that, which is why I don't have a snapshot yet. And also, you might be wondering, okay, so I have a production environment now, and I have my app settings dot config or app settings dot JSON. Do I have to start, do I have to come here and start adding the keys one after the other? That is too much work for me. I can't do that. What you can do here is to come to this import and export part of it, right? And then you can import your file. You have settings.json. So if I come to configuration, you can see it's a JSON format. You select the file and then it drops it in here for you. So let's try to pick a file. Let's try to pick a file. Okay, so let's pick a file just to see how that works properly. So if I come to say my documents, my automations, do this and just pick a file here. Oh, sorry. That's something. Yeah, let's just do this. I think this has settings like JSON. Yeah. So I can just load this file, right? Is there a separator? No separator, or I can use if I have colon or I have slash, depending on how you created your configuration file. It could be for a .NET application, it could be for whatever kind of application. You know, different applications have different styles of configuration. In your app settings.json, you always have this colon as your separator. But if you don't have a separator, you can leave it that way. If you just want to take in the entire file itself and keep it in a value, you can leave it that way. Or you want to separate it, you can also put the separator. So I'm just going to use this as a separator. And do I want to have a prefix for it? Let me call it my new app as my prefix. Do I want to have a label for it? Let me call it my dev label. And what's the content type? It's a JSON file. That is what I just uploaded. So if you click that and you apply, it's going to load those keys for you and just keep everything in. If you come to your configuration explorer here, you should see the new keys that have just come in. So you can see that everything from that particular file, everything has been saved. So you don't have to worry if, oh, your app settings.json is so large that you're wondering, how do I start putting all these things here? So this is the things you just imported. As you can see, this is the name, which is my new app. This is the cosmos.db, which is also like a value in the app settings.json. And this is the label. Remember, what do I want to do? When I want to use my filter, what kind of things do I want to use to filter the values that I'm pulling into my environment? So that is how you can easily import your app settings.json here, and you can use it in your application. While this is still deploying, just some minutes. So yeah, there are quite some steps. So it's almost done. Yes, deploying the API and should deploy the UI. So that is how you can import and export configuration. Assuming, okay, for example, I have dev configuration and I want to test on my local. I'm just joining the company. They told me they're using app configuration. I want to test this thing on my local. You can easily come to import or export, and you try to export whatever it is you want to export. You want to export it to a configuration file, or you want to export it to an app configuration, another app configuration somewhere else. You can do that. As you can see, it's going to tell me, okay, where is my app configuration? Is it somewhere else that I want to put it? So it's just like transferring config from one to another, or you want to put it in a file. If I put it in a file, do I want to put a separator? Yes. The naming convention, you can use Pascal case, Camel case, depending on the kind of application you're developing and depending on the application settings pattern itself. So just going to leave it in Pascal case. Then you apply. Immediately, it's going to create the file for you that you can download easily. So I'm going to save it in here. Then that is my part. I'll try to open this. Okay, sorry. You might be wondering that where is that guy? Guy just left the screen. So if I open it here, this is what it looks like. You can see my API key, my everything just came. So it's easy to actually do these things in app configuration where you don't have to start wondering about who has access to what, who is seeing what, and why, what is what. So uh, this is taking longer than I expected. 6 minutes. Oh, okay, sorry. So while we're waiting for that, apologies why that happened. Not so sure why that did, but that's it for app config. Now let's look at app key vault. You might be wondering what is key vault. Maybe you've used key vault before, or you've not used key vault before. You might be wondering, what does it look like? This is a key vault. And just like your app config, it has a URL that you can call whenever, as you can see, this is the vault URL. I can call it from any application, maybe local, dev, on-prem, on the cloud, wherever it is. You can even call it across cloud providers. If you've worked in a multi-cloud environment, maybe you're using AWS for some things, you're using Azure for some things, you can actually retrieve values from this vault. It is not Azure specific. It is just residing in Azure. So in your vault, you can keep things like keys, you can keep secrets, you can keep certificates. So it's not just for secrets alone. You can keep certificates, you can keep distance. So right now we want to see the secret in. As you can see, it said the operation list is not enabled for this key vault access policy. That means even myself as the owner of this key vault, I can't say this thing because there is an access policy on it. And if you check the access policy on it, we'll see the things that can actually retrieve this. So it is my GitHub workflow app that can retrieve from this. I think my deployment is doing something. So this is going to, oh, my UI is almost done. So it is just that app, which is my GitHub workflow app, the application that is actually running this entire thing. That's the only thing that I want to have access to these secrets to do whatever it is I want to do. So myself as the owner, I can't see it, which is why we're talking about access, RBAC, policies and permissions to your key vault. Now, the value in the key vault is being referenced from one of the applications, which I'll show you. But let's just see what is inside. So I can always update that. Yeah, I'm the owner of the region. So permit me. Let me just show you how to do that. Please don't do this if you're not the owner of the region. But just so we could see what's inside, I want to see the secrets. I'm going to give myself permissions. Yeah. So this is because I'm the owner of the entire what's it called? Subscription. That's why I'm doing this. If you're just a user, if you're just a contributor, you can't do this thing. You need to be the owner of the subscription to give you access to this. So once my key vault is done updating, you will see the keys in it. So this is the key. I have an API key. Can I see it immediately? No, it is still encrypted. Right? Until I click show the script value before I can see the value itself. But if it's an application that is retrieving this thing, the application doesn't have to go through all these things that I'm doing. The application will just retrieve it, connect it, and get the values out of this keyboard, which is also one of the things you can do in your application. When I was doing this, I deployed my API application. Just let me show you how it is retrieving it. Services.
I think the deployment is done.
Oh, nice. Deployment is done. So let's try this. It took a while because the service just properly started. The goal of this is not to redeploy, right? So we just see what it looks like. Vision is taking a while. So yes, set the feature flag or the new dashboard is still classic. So let's go back to app config. Now, probably messed up something here. That's what's it called? The plan, which is why it is not enabling it. But let's do that again. Okay, so just take this out so that we'll see how to create a feature flag. Now, I don't have the new dashboard feature flag. I'm just going to create it afresh. Going to call it new dashboard, right? This is the name. I don't have a label for it. Do I want to enable this feature flag? Yes. So right now, I'm just using it as a switch, not condition for rolling out, putting timing on it. I'm just going to create it as a switch. Next, do I want to enable telemetry on it? Do I want to see people that are calling this? In case somebody else is, maybe another application is calling it or something else. We can enable telemetry to see more of those things. Next, and create. So this is enabled. If I should come to my application, fresh, as you can see, my new dashboard is now showing. You can see how quick that happened because I enabled a feature flag for new dashboard. Instantly, my application picked it up. I didn't have to start my application, right? I didn't have to do anything. So this is a new dashboard. If I toggle it off, right? This has been toggled off. If I refresh my application, it should go back to the old dashboard. But it's going to take a while because I set 5 seconds filter on it. As you can see, it's gone back to classic. So that is how you can use feature flag to control what is happening on your application at the instant. You don't need to wait. You don't need to do too many things. Just at the instant, you don't have to restart your application. You know, sometimes you might feel like, oh, let me restart your application. And then when you're restarting it, a user somewhere is affected and the user is saying, oh, I tried to connect to these people. This bank is not giving me my money, all these kind of things. But the users don't have to experience that, which is what feature flag is all about using app config instantly, right? So that is how to do feature flags with app config. I don't need to restart. Imagine, for example, let's say we want to turn on maintenance, right? We want to do maintenance on our application, and our maintenance happens every 2 p.m. So now let's try. I think I messed up the configuration the other time. Now let's try it with a time frame. So I'm just going to delete that because it looks like I messed it up the other time. Let's do the rollout feature of it. So I come to rollout. I want to roll it out for a particular time. Let's give it another name, new dashboard. So let's just confirm it's on the old dashboard at the moment. Yeah, it's gone back to your dashboard, right? So let's just set new dashboards. And I don't have a label. I don't want to give any label for it. Audience, let me just let it affect everybody 100%. Then configuration, I don't need extra configuration for it. If you want to include extra configuration for it, you can enable this and put your extra configuration in it. Let's say, for example, you want that thing to be showing some things to some set of people that was already configured in your application. You can include configuration, but if you don't want to do that, just turn it off. And let's set condition. Let's add a schedule. I'm going to set it to now, right? Since the timeline is not correct. Right now, it is 1906 in West Africa. So 1906, let's use 1906 to 1909, right? So we'll see how that is going to work for us. So 1909, I'm going to leave my telemetry and I'm going to review and create. Let's create that before the time changes. So it's 1907 now. If I refresh this, application is probably cached on my application and give it a little bit of time. Oh, sorry, I toggled it off. My bad. I'm going to enable it. Sorry, because I was wondering. Please don't mess up again. So let's just refresh, refresh. Taking too long. Well, something it's going. I'm surprised this is not working, but it's supposed to. I tried it the devil before I joined this call, and it worked. Ah, sorry about that, but usually that is how you can set it. The reason why this is not working is a bit strange. Sorry, I don't usually do things from the UI. So new dashboard. Oh, that's oh, okay. I think that was from. Oh, okay. I need a label. No, I don't need a label. Well, next. Okay, so rollout. Let me confirm my conditions once again, just to be sure I didn't miss something. And then do this for 19. It's 1909 now. Let's do just for 3 minutes to 1911. Yep. Believing this is the cost of it. So let me just set this to 7% audience. Not everybody. Expression, I don't need that. Give me this. Next. Save. And I toggle it on. So reverse. Yeah, that's probably me messing up the application itself. Okay, so that's not responding properly. Probably messed up something in the application itself on the application level. That's actually provided the other time. But usually that's how you can schedule it for rollout. You can also do for experiments. This is the experimental part, which has a different kind of configuration. You can create variants of what you want people to see, what you want people to see with that feature flag that you want to set. So that is basically how you can use your app config. I was about to show you how you can connect your application to your secret itself without using a secret value. So this is my API. My API is connected to my keyboard to retrieve a value. Let's say, for example, your API token, if I come to my environment variables, maybe I'm trying to retrieve an API token and I don't want to put it in my app config. I want to put it in my keyboard and I want my application to reference it directly. So you can see I created this as a keyboard secret, meaning you can't see it. It's only going to show you the reference to the keyboard itself. Let me just try to click this. What you see entirely is the reference value to the keyboard. This is not what you want to see. Probably want to see the keyboard, but it's in the keyboard. If you click on this value, it then tells you where it is, where it is saved. It's saved in this keyboard. You can't see it. If you want to see it, you need to go and check the keyboard. So this is how you secure your applications. And interestingly, you can refresh the value in this keyboard and your application is going to pick it instantly. You don't need to restart your application. You don't need to do application restart. You don't need to do anything. Just as, for example, the way I was trying to do my demo now, I changed something and I started my application and I stopped talking. Sometimes you might not know what I've changed on your application and then you restart it and something happens, which is one of the things that app configuration is giving you. You are not restarting your application is working just as it is, but there's a configuration change happening at the instance, and you can always include that in your development just to help you enhance your rolling out, help you enhance your security score, and when you're deploying at scale, these are things that is going to keep your environment secure. Sorry, this is not working as I expected it to, but there's definitely something that I missed in that keyboard configuration. But you've been able to see, before I set the condition, you've been able to see how you can toggle on and toggle off, and instantly it affects your application. So, like I said, I'm going to just expose this, what's it called? this repository to everybody to see it, you can probably try it maybe 5 minutes after this meeting just to get a deep dive into what it looks like. I would take off my configuration and send it to everybody just so that you could use it. And also, these are linked to Azure documents that will give you more insights on how to configure and use this app configuration. When we go to the upper level documentation, if you want to understand, the first one I sent is a quick demo of how you can put it in your .NET application. But if you want to use it beyond what we've been able to show at the moment, and you want to understand it in depth, this is a document for you to read on to proceed into how to use the Azure app configuration to do whatever it is you want to do in your environment. So today we've been able to touch on how to take out secrets in your code, how to store your environment in a central repository, how to set refresh interval, and how to make sure that your audit is giving you 100% secure score. So if anybody has any question, please let me know. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining today. It's been nice sharing this with you, especially when I'm sharing things with developers, because most times I create resources for developers. So it's been nice sharing this with you, and I hope that whenever you're trying to deploy something or set up something, you are security conscious, you are doing things the right way to keep your environment safe and secure. So if you have any feedback for me, you can drop it in this link just to give feedback. I would really appreciate that. But if you have any questions right now on the call, be expecting that, and I will hand over back to you, Babatunde.
Thank you so much, Timothy. I've gathered one or two things from this demo. I don't really use keywords much. I use the app configuration a lot, but with this, I've been able to gather one or two things from. I've not used Azure feature flag before, but
Oh,
I've used different feature flag. I've used config cat because that's what we're actually currently using. But I'm going to give this feature flag a try and see how it actually works.
yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this time. Uh, please, if you have any question, you can you can ask now. And I think we will still have few more people that will still ask question after watching this video on the YouTube channel. So I don't know if this particular QR code contains your email address because they might want to shoot your email address, uh, maybe questions or something. I
So
don't know.
the QR code is going to take you to your form. If you have more information, you can just drop it. If you have any question, you can drop it in the form. It's going to send it to me. You can drop your emails there for me to reply to you. So
Okay.
that's what the QR code is going to do. It's just a survey, and I really appreciate if everybody on the call can just let me know what they think about the entire session, and also if you have questions.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone have a question before we round it up. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, good evening. Sorry. I hope like what he explained concerning this Azure, I really learned a lot because I once used Azure one particular time. I don't know how to go about it, but this can aid me on what to do. And again, I believe the video will be uploaded on the YouTube. Please, I would like to get the URL.
okay. If you are following us
Yeah, yeah.
on the meetup, I'm going to add the link to the meetup
Okay,
after the
okay,
session.
okay, okay, okay. Thanks.
Uh, okay. I think we're good. Thank you, Timothy, for this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for the time. Uh, I'm going to please anyone that is there that is not following us on the meetup, please try and do so because at the end of this session, I'm going to do a raffle draw and I'm going to reach out to the person that uh whosoever that the raffle picks to give the person the JetBrain license. Is for 1 year. You have access to different things there. Uh different thing that you can do as a developer. JetBrain is also like Microsoft, sorry, like uh, Visual Studio. They have different tools, right, that you can use. They have from PHP Storm to Rider, different AI capability for everything that you can do. So it's actually valuable, and I think you can make use of it for 1 year, free of charge, without any time. Thank you so much. I think we're going to call it a wrap for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Timothy, for this presentation. Um, Part of what we're going to also upload on the meetup is going to be the slide from Timothy. Should in case you want to take a look at it, for you to gain one or two things from there. Also, we also upload that on the meetup page. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much. And till next month, where we have another exciting uh, episode. Keep building, keep innovating, and I think have a bug-free week. Thank you so much. All right.